Well, thank you very much for joining me in this video. I want to talk to you today about a situation known as functional obsolescence. And to describe what I'm talking about, let me go back a few years. My own particular house, I brought a landscaping company in and had them draw up a plan for exterior landscaping. Then I hired them to implement that plan and make the changes. Well, they dug up the areas of the garden, they extended it, they planted shrubs and ornamental bushes, they ripped out the lawn and put in fresh grass, and they gave it a totally different look. When they were done, they did a beautiful job. They said, well, that should be good for about 15 years. And I said, why 15 years? And they said, it'll become obsolete in 15 years because the shrubs will have grown to trees. They said the grass will have become thin and it'll be full of crabgrass. And the situation will have just changed. That's functional obsolescence. The subdivision I live in is about 50 years old. And over the past 3 or 4 years, as I walk around the subdivision, you see a number of properties that have been involved in extensive renovations. A lot of tri-levels there, and some of these, by the time they're finished, you wouldn't recognize them. They're still multi-level, but they don't look the same at all. The whole skyline of the property is different. The shape, the size, the stairs, everything is different. The exterior brick and siding is given way to stone. The asphalt driveways changed to interlock brick. And it's a totally different look. And that's carried inside with a large palladium window, with sweeping staircase, with open concept, totally different look. So they've upgraded and made a change. I live in a circle, and there's 5 properties in the circle. All 5 of the properties have been radically transformed, and you wouldn't recognize them compared to what they were when they were originally built. But that's not the case with all of them. One house in the subdivision went up for sale 2-3 years ago, and the man who owned it was the original owner. He'd been there since 1974. And when you walked through the front door, it was like going through a time tunnel. The house was immaculate. It looked like it had never been lived in. You walk into the bathroom, and it was hard to believe anybody would ever have a shower or a bath there with the condition of the grouting and the tile. And yet the tile was these small square, what they called chick tile, and the floor was patterned linoleum, and the fixtures were green. The carpeting in the floor as you went through the bedrooms and the hallway was shag. It was exactly the way it was in 1974. And it may have made a statement in 1974, but it wasn't making the same statement today. It was screaming functional obsolescence. It was still functional. You could still live in it. You could still use it, and he did. But it wasn't what was appealing to people living there today. And that can happen not only in the house you live in, and the subdivision you live in, but if you own investment property, it can happen in the property that you own and are renting out. One of the things, if you have a duplex or a triplex you're renting out, or a single family, it doesn't matter, and it's 50 years old, if you haven't upgraded it, it's going to be experiencing this functional obsolescence as well. And landlords will say to me, well, why would I spend the money to upgrade if it's still functional? And if tenants are still willing to rent it and I can still command the rent, why would I want to spend the money? Well, there's a number of reasons. One of the things is that rental market is cyclical. Right now, there's a scarcity of rentals. And so tenants are scrambling to try and find a place to rent. And if you're a landlord, it's not hard to rent to a tenant. But that changes, especially with the economic cycle and the government trying to really encourage the building or renovating to add additional housing units onto the marketplace. And of course, when the rents have gone up as prices have, there's an encouragement for builders to build rental units, or for speculators to buy condos and turn them into rental units. And you drive around and you may see vacancy signs, or you may see 1 month free or 2 months free, and all of a sudden the pendulum shifts, and now the tenants have the opportunity to pick and choose, and the units that don't look good are going to be picked over. And so it is really incumbent on landlords to have units that are attractive, up to date, and will attract a better caliber of tenant. And what you don't want to have is you don't want to let it go until the pendulum shifts, and all of a sudden you've got numbers of units that all need to be refreshed or remodeled. The thing I would challenge you to do is, as you get a vacancy, take that opportunity to bring the unit up to modern standards. Maybe you want to go into the bathroom and rip out the tub and put a walk-in shower. Now, you don't want to do that if it's a 3-bedroom unit and that's the only bathroom, probably. But if it's a 2-bedroom, it'll work fine with a walk-in shower. And what a difference it'll make to the look of that bathroom. Maybe you get into the kitchen and you want to replace the cupboards. I remember I was doing this some time ago, and the cupboards were fine, but they were plywood slab painted cupboards. And the fellow who was doing the floor and working in the kitchen, he said to me, "Are you changing the cupboards?" I said, "I don't know. They seem fine and solid." And he said, "Yeah, but they're ugly." And that kind of was a shock to my system. I realized that he was telling the truth. And so I pulled off perfectly good 50-year-old cupboards and replaced them with brand new, modern, attractive-looking cupboards. And you want to do the same thing with the flooring. If the tenant's left and you've got carpeting, rather than putting more carpeting down, replacing the carpeting or shampooing the carpeting, you might want to think of luxury linoleum or ceramic tile, something to bring it up to a fresh look. What I did recently on a 2-bedroom apartment was I knocked out the wall between the kitchen and the living room and made it an open concept. And what a difference it made to the unit. And as unit by unit, these units become available because they're vacant, take the opportunity to upgrade one at a time. One of the advantages, because you are doing renovations and you're not doing something new, you can expense these costs instead of capitalize them, which means you're using before tax dollars instead of after tax dollars, and probably it's costing you 50 cents on the dollar as opposed to something you did in your own house. And you're never caught with a situation where you're scrambling with a bunch of tired units and you're trying to do them all at one time, and what a shock financially, and what a hardship while they're vacant, and a problem for you scrambling around to make it happen. So keep in mind this concept of functional obsolescence. Have a look at your rental units through the eyes of a tenant that was considering it, and maybe you want to upgrade them one by one and keep your fleet modern and upgraded. Thank you very much for taking your time to watch this video. I look forward to talking to you again next week.